Brian Kelly says LSU has circled Clemson for their opener. Shirts, workouts, slogans, the whole 9 yards. But the truth is, Clemson doesn't need any of that. And we'll talk about it all coming up right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're new to the show, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And for my everydayers out there, thank you so much for returning. You know how we do it here on Locked On, exclusive Clemson content every single week right here for you. And don't forget to follow me in between episodes over on X at the Morgan T Show. We can talk about all things Clemson whenever and however you want. Today is going to be a big time discussion on LSU and the comments recently made from Brian Kelly on ESPN, and we'll talk about it here because he needs to make some comments if you really want to be honest with Brian Kelly. Last time that he came to Death Valley to play Clemson, as you saw over on X at the Morgan T Show, he looked extremely shocked. And he wasn't coaching LSU, he was coaching Notre Dame. And as Clemson was coming down the hill, he looked like a deer in the headlights. It was quite ironic, quite funny from our perspective. But it's not funny for Brian Kelly because he is 0-3 in season openers at LSU, and they really haven't won. LSU hasn't won a week one game since Joe Burrow was around. So now you've got Brian Kelly turning Clemson into some sort of rally cry for his team to get back to relevance. And I know SEC teams will be shocked to even hear this, but this is exactly what is happening. They've made the t-shirts. They've put the slogans all over the weight room. The game and the schedule and the discussion about the game have been all over campus and the facilities. And he said that they've circled the game. And again, quote, it's on our shirts. It's in our weight room. It's everywhere. This isn't what I think he thought it would be. I think he thought it would be a show of power, of strength, of motivation. But what it spews to me is a little bit of panic disguised as motivation. Brian Kelly seems to be throwing everything at the wall, hopefully to get something to stick in a week one win that he hasn't been able to have since he's been with LSU. Clemson doesn't need any of that fanfare. They don't need the t-shirts. They don't need the slogans. They don't need the calendar circled. Now, you and I may circle the calendar for it, but the team itself, the coaching staff and the roster, they don't need to do any of that. And Dabo Swinney doesn't need to go in front of the media and say anything like that. The exact opposite, to be honest, because Dabo Swinney knows what we know, and that his team is one of the best teams in the country, that the roster is one of the most loaded rosters and the highest percentage of returning snaps in the country, and his team is built to win. LSU has no proof that they are built to win right now because they're 0-5 in their last 5 openers. This game isn't just important to them. It is a rally cry out of desperation to come back to relevance on the national stage. And they finally get someone that is the best team in the ACC, a playoff caliber team last year and this year. But Clemson has no desperation. They're, on the other hand, they're a veteran-built team. They have a ton of returning production. And this game is going to be very difficult for LSU because it's not going to be one of those neutral site games that they have been accustomed to. And many of the SEC teams for their first week games demand, which is a neutral site game. This game is going to be played in Clemson Memorial Stadium in Death Valley. Now, you know, you can't walk into Clemson and expect to outman a Dabo Sweeney-led team. You can't walk into Clemson and expect to beat or have success keeping the crowd out of the game. You can't walk into Clemson and expect to throw haymakers and out-tough them at the line of scrimmage. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have to fight it all the way to the very last whistle. Dabo Sweeney is not a friend of getting embarrassed on national television. He will not stand for it. Those are the kind of things that will get assistant coaches let go. He is not going to get embarrassed on national television. He is not going to get embarrassed at home. And he is definitely not going to get embarrassed against another team that wants to be the Tigers better than the Tigers. LSU printing T-shirts, that's nice. Circling the calendar, that's nice. Having it all over your weight room and everywhere, that's nice. But Clemson has quietly added to their staff in the right ways. They've added in a little bit of transfer portal guys, and they've paid big money to retain some of the best talent in the country. And with one of the best quarterbacks in the country, Cade Klubnik, entering in his final season, finally, with the most amount of confidence we've ever seen from him, the most amount of weapons that we've ever seen around him, and a fan base that is ready to get back to national championship titles and national championship level respect. Now, if you're an LSU fan and you're listening to this, I know you're loaded with talent too. I know you have one of the best transfer classes in the country. I know you've got the firepower. I know that you know how to win big games, but does Brian Kelly really strike you as one of those guys that can get you there? Does he strike you as someone that can come to Clemson and beat the Tigers? He wasn't able to do it under Notre Dame. They've choked away many leads under Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly has not been able to close the deal in this stadium. And typically, you know, he's shown, what has he shown us? Believe him when you see him. He has shown us that he is a slow starter. And it does not going to matter how many shirts that they print out. The program, they need to prove it. They need to win a real road game in a real big-time opener. And I don't know if the matchup against Clemson is going to be the one that they're really looking for, because it's the clash of two cultures. You know, Dabo Swinney does it differently than Brian Kelly. Dabo Swinney is not on a spinning turntable pretending to be some sort of hip old grandpa like Brian Kelly is. Clemson is built on development, commitment, consistency, and doing things Dabo's way, in loyalty and holding tough to values. It's more than just circling a game. It's about doing everything right on and off the field, on the off season, and during the season leading up to the big game. Brian Kelly may think he's motivating, but what he's really doing is showing that he's feeling a little bit of the pressure. Clemson, all they need to do is be silent, because silence is dangerous. Do not sleep on Dabo Swinney, even though he may not be in front of the cameras talking that talk. Don't sleep on the roster, and don't be surprised if Clemson goes 1-0 to start the 2025 season. We'll talk about more as we get into this and Dabo Swinney not needing the hype to dominate as we continue. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I've told you many times that I never realized how much money I was spending on food and eating out, and now I budget smarter, I save more, and then with my wife, we're able to track our counts and set our goals together and be on the same page. I cannot stress this enough. There is less stress when you are on the same page. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Let's talk about that quiet off season. Clemson's had a very eventful off season, but it seems like everybody kind of just moved on. Did you know that Dabo Swinney reset from a guy he hired from within, that he convinced everybody that it was the right move to hire from within, to go after Wes Goodwin? He convinced everyone that that was the right move, that he was the rainmaker of defensive coordinator position. And in the offseason, he took away a one-year coach from Penn State, another top university, a defensive coordinator, a guy who was a former head coach, his second former head coach hire that he's brought into the program in Tom Allen. We talked about it a ton for 1 month. Now, I don't see a lot of talk about it because it seems as if that's not the splashy move that maybe everybody wanted to talk about. Clemson's offseason has been quietly loud, it seems. Nobody talks about their big transfer splashes. I mean, Dabo Swinney, after years of saying that he liked his guys, he was going to continue to put the primary focus on high school. He's not had any big-time transfer splash recruits. Now, he'll tell you he's always used the transfer portal, and that is true. He has always used the transfer portal, but not the way that the national media would like for him or most of the teams to do, by paying exorbitant amount of money to land big time guys that can't live up to their expectations. Dabo Swinney, on the other hand, has brought in a bunch of guys who could basically be future coaches, future graduate assistants, or future accountants. It seems to not be guys that would actually help the team from a starter potential. But what did happen this offseason? Well, he went out and he got 3 transfer portal guys, all high caliber guys. High caliber guy from a lower level in Tristan Smith, Southeast Missouri State. He got a high caliber guy, defensive end from Purdue, who only won 1 game last season, but he was the best player on their team on the defense. Landed him. An all-conference player. And then he went out and got Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama. The guy's a former 5-star player that's just looking for a fresh start. So it happened after all the griping and complaining and fussing and hollering and hootenanny, everything. It happened, and we talked about it for a week, and we moved on. Wow, Dabo Swinney did something we thought he never would do, and we're right back to same old Clemson. Because even when he does change the way he changes things, he doesn't do it out of necessity for gimmicks. He doesn't do it out of necessity to get in front of the camera. He does it based on needs of the team, based on recruiting, player retention, culture, and fit for the organization and for the university. And as a result, the players respect him even more. The high school players respect him and want to be a part of the program. And the transfer portal players respect him and maybe even give up a little bit more money to come and be a part of something different. That is different than many of the teams out there in the country who are just looking to win now and pay the most money possible to win now. Now, Dabo didn't need to completely reinvent himself to stay relevant. All he needed to do was stay true to his formula and true to what he has been doing over the past decade. And a lot of people say, well, he's too stuck in his old ways. He's too stuck and too stubborn. But if you look at Dabo Swinney year over year, over time, he has made changes that were necessary. He has made changes in the staff, made changes on the team that were necessary. Small adjustments. Now, he is not going to be an early adapter in anything that is brand new in the world of college football. He is going to be someone that is calculated and assesses the situation, stays true to his values first and foremost, and then adjusts as the competition and the competitive landscape needs him to do. And he's got the best team that he's had in 5 years. Now, with Cade Klubnik peaking at the right time, finishing 2024 very strong with an ACC championship game and a sharp fight against Texas in their home stadium. Now he has Clemson's wide receiver room looking fresh and new from a year ago, from just a few years ago. He's got aces, big-time guys, high-level 4 stars, high-level 5 stars, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, Tristan Smith, and Tyler Brown, among others out there as well, and a healthy group of wide receivers that are talented up and down and can get separation and can make Cade Klubnik look even better than he did last season. His defense is loaded from the core outside. Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Will Helt, and Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz behind them. A ton of guys that you can trust in your front seven to lock down most of college football and most of your conference, if not all of the teams in your conference. Add in, the additions and the retention that Clemson has been able to do. This is one of the most talented teams that Dabo has had in the past couple of years. They did so being strategic and the opposite of what I talked about earlier, which was desperate. No panic on the Clemson sideline. Dabo's got a team of veterans who have been in some of the highest pressure games possible. Clemson doesn't need to learn how to win the big games. The staff doesn't need to learn how to win the big games. They have done it. The biggest question mark for me is that Cade Klubnik needs to get over that hump. He himself hasn't had the best of luck at the season openers or in the biggest of big games or in the most difficult opponents. So I'm looking for him and the team, him to take the team on his shoulders and show what they can do and reach the full potential in his final year here at Clemson. A lot of fans, a lot of people or critics of Dabo will still say he needs to continue to change and he still needs to use the portal more than ever. But it shows that when he has adapted at his own pace and his own level and stuck to his values, that he has once again built one of the better teams in the country without selling out his identity. Clemson's identity is clear: culture, continuity, and confidence, where everyone else is trying to buy success and bet on what have you done for me lately, guys, and mercenaries. Dabo is sticking true to his values, and it's a risk, some people think, but I think Dabo, to him, it's calculated and it's the safest thing possible. They don't need to advertise or elaborate on what motivation they have. They have all the motivation they need, and it starts with week 1. Again, no T-shirts, no slogans, no circling of the calendar. They just need to be focused on the results. This game is big for Clemson. We don't have many days left. I'm looking at the calendar. It looks like maybe 78, 77 days until opening kickoff. This game will define how we feel about Clemson's season and what the potential that they can reach, and we'll talk about it. The rest of the schedule is also very tough, but beating LSU will change a lot of perspectives and will make sure that Clemson starts out on the right foot. The national media will be watching. The critics will be watching. The SEC homers will be watching. Those on ESPN, ABC, primetime, Saturday night. A win against LSU will do more than move Clemson to 1-0. It will set an early season tone for how real and lethal Clemson will be for the rest of the season and how realistic they can make it all the way back to the national championship game. This is a statement game not only for LSU in being able to prove what they can do, but this is a statement game for Clemson to be able to prove that they belong in the national title conversation. And it really all starts with, in front of many millions of eyes, Brian Kelly and LSU returning back to Death Valley. Can Brian Kelly do it? Now, Clemson didn't have a good shake against the SEC last season. They were 0-3. They lost to Texas in the playoffs, but gave them probably the best fight of any first-round team that was a lower seed team. And they lost to South Carolina, which unfortunately was a lot on the guy that was fired, which is Wes Goodwin, and calling one of the worst defenses that we've ever seen against a team where you knew what their only strength was. He decided to do the opposite of what was expected. And then at the beginning was what I would say, a concern from a Dabo Swinney team that has a lot of inexperienced playmakers. Clemson has struggled to get back to the point of having a roster loaded with playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. They've always, at least even through the down years, they've been able to keep things going on the defensive side with recruiting. And unfortunately, 2024, it seemed as if the offense, they finally got those big-time recruits on the offensive side of the ball, but they just weren't ready to use them at the beginning of the season against Georgia. I think if you were to get Clemson versus Georgia again at the end of the season, maybe things would be different. Maybe Clemson would have been 1-2. But it's not unrealistic to say that Clemson could have went 2-1 against Georgia, South Carolina, and lost to Texas, or maybe even won against Texas and South Carolina and lost to Georgia. It's not unrealistic. I mean, they gave a good fight against most of those teams and had the lead in some of those games. But this is their shot to redeem themselves against the SEC. But I wouldn't say it would need to get to the point of circling any kind of things on the calendar or plastering it all over the locker room. This could be one of the bigger wins in the non-conference that Dabo's had, and it will prove that Cade Klubnik is ready and that the receivers are at an elite level. And it'll put the conference back on the map as well. Whether or not we care about that much at all, we really don't. But Clemson is really one of the main legitimate playoff threats for the ACC, and so they have a lot of hope on what the Tigers can do. And most importantly, it really proves without a shadow of a doubt that Clemson's run is not over. Dabo's philosophy still works at a high level, and a win can get them on the road to the national championship, road to the playoffs. Sure, am I overhyping it? It is week one. One game doesn't ever define the entire season. But in this case, both these teams have playoff hopes. Both these teams have high expectations. Both these teams know that you win and you continue to win. You continue to be in control of the conversation and continue to be in control of your destiny the more you continue to win. You don't want to get into a situation where you're hoping for other people to win or other people to lose. College football is not won in August, that's for sure. I think it's really won in November and as you get on into December. But it can set the tone and shape how you are going to continue for the rest of the season in August. You will know early on this season and last season, as with last season, where the biggest flaws are with both teams, both Clemson and LSU. Early season matchups like this can really show what you need to work on or what maybe you didn't work on in the offseason. You win this, and everyone will have you at the forefront of their conversations. You lose it, and you will be playing catch-up for many, many weeks after. Brian Kelly is definitely the guy talking right now, and I'm adding to the fire a little bit here on the podcast. But come kickoff, I think it will be Dabo Swinney, 82,000 fans, and the Clemson Tigers who are the loudest. They win, they're right back into the discussion for a potential run to a national championship. All brakes, no gas. Let's go. Go Tigers. All right, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Portal Show with Brian Smith. He has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes of college football. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, that's the end of this week. We'll see you next week right here on Locked On Clemson. And as always, we'll see you at the top of the hill.